Welcome to the first episode of the Dragon Dungeon.
No, Tavern.
The Dragon. Welcome to the first episode of Dragon Tavern. Coming at you with me, Ollie the DM, and Dave, aka Stefan the Ranger.
Yes.
So,
or the player.
Or the player. Either one.
We've got a nickname.
Yeah. So, this episode is based on how to start a D&D campaign. I'll be talking about stuff that you do as a DM to prepare your campaign and your backstories and stuff.
And I'll be talking from the perspective of a player. Obviously, it's not as intense, but ultimately, being a player is quite important to the game.
So we'll throw some tips at you and that kind of thing. One of the first things to decide is, do you want to play a preset generated campaign, or do you want to create your own? I was a first-time DM when I first started my first game. I didn't go for a pre-gen. I thought that would be too easy, so I thought I'd create my own. So I created the world Elysia, where I, for the first part of my first game, stole some aspects, like Neverwinter Castle. I thought that's cool, I'll keep that. Luskan, I think I'd keep that. But then I, over time, just kind of said, if you go to the west, you'll find this forest, and if you go south, you'll find this.
But really, just play up to ask some questions. The world wasn't completely there when you started the campaign, no?
No. For my Thursday game, I just had this piece of the Sword Coast that I'd stolen from one of the books. For your game, where he's a player, I literally just created everything. So I drew a map that wasn't to scale, but basically I was able to say, like when you had your dwarf who was brought up by humans, you said that you hadn't grown up with dwarf, so I created Firehold Kingdom.
Basically, my clan was from Firehold,
right?
But when my mother died on the field of battle, I wasn't near Firehold. And so, when my mother died and my father was killed by the undead, or so I believe, I was taken to be raised in Scartown. So
what I did was I created some parts that were specific to the backstories of the players, from certain things, and then I just thought to myself, especially getting inspired by like World of Warcraft, that kind of thing, I thought, what happens if you go south, and what happens if you travel north? So I created the Desert of the Uncrossable Storm, and Shadow Forest and all that kind of stuff. And just being able to have these starting points, and when someone says, we need a blacksmith, where do we go? Just having this little crudely drawn map behind your DM screen and say, there's the harbourage of, there's Scartown, the harbourage of Stonefall Cove, and just in your DM mind, also have how long it takes to travel to these places.
And the one thing I've noticed about listening to DM tips and also listening to Oliver is the fact that you're not supposed to know everything.
Yeah.
When you go into a game, you can't, I think, never put pressure on yourself to know every single thing, because you're not gonna. The point of D&D is it's a whole world you're creating. And if you honestly believe that you need the whole world fleshed out, designed, and perfect when you're starting, you're never going to start.
Yeah.
Because it's never going to get there.
And something you'll definitely hear if you watch Matt Mercer's gaming tips, you have to be able to improvise. Because sometimes a player will go in a completely different direction to what you'd planned.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. And that's useful to have the map in front of you. Also have a pen next to it. So if at any point you need to write in, and they found this swamp or this forest or this beach, or something like that.
And you actually want your players to do that.
Yeah.
One, because it gets them a little bit more engaged, more invested in the world. They are finding the freedom within themselves as a player, I'm talking really from player, to be able to just do that. Yeah. And that's the point of D&D, to be able the freedom to really go off and go over that, or go over there, or go over there.
Which is actually why I think that using a pre-generated campaign for your first campaign would be more difficult. Because you have this stuff that is just locked in, and these parts of the stories that are so set in stone that you won't get a good feel for what you need to be able to improv as a DM. What I really like to do is, at our local game store, they have the pre-generated campaigns.
Oh, shut up.
Caffeinated Dragon Games! You guys are awesome.
Link down below.
They supply me with all my D&D stuff, my dice, my miniatures, my maps, my DM screen, everything. What I like to do is go there with the pre-generated campaigns and just read through the stories and say, oh my god, that's such a good idea, why don't I have something like that in my game? I've written a next quite important chunk of the campaign where you're a player, just from reading this, just from reading a pre-generated campaign and going, boom, now I'm inspired.
And one thing you told me is that when you you got inspiration for our next bit of our campaign, and then you were so excited for us to begin it, but we didn't even get near it.
You were nowhere near this whole... Because I went to see the show at the Opera House, and again, you can draw inspiration for D&D from things
Opera House, if you don't know, is a place in Wellington. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forget that not everyone's from Wellington.
We should really say that we're from Wellington, New Zealand.
All being shot from Wellington, New Zealand. I think it's interesting.
We've just never mentioned that in any of the videos so far.
And it's interesting. The first thing you say when someone says, "Oh, you're from New Zealand," they go, "Oh, like Lord of the Rings, the hobbits and the orcs." And
I've actually had some friends that worked on the movies.
Yeah, no, that's what it's like. I actually auditioned to be a orc, but I wasn't the right size. I was too tall.
He had the look.
Zing! I will get you back for that.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
So things to think about when you're doing your first campaign. Always have a pen ready to make adjustments to the map, and you don't need to know everything about Blacksteel Castle. You don't need to know...
Blacksteel Castle was a castle in our game.
Yeah, it's one that I created.
So he gets a bit ahead of himself, so I look at the face and brew. Like, they don't know what Blacksteel Castle is.
Right, so Blacksteel Castle is one of the integral places that I had created for the campaign set in the Easterwood Castle.
We spent a bit of time there.
Yeah.
We're being slapped a lot.
You did get slapped a lot, and that's where Queen Asalia and King Morton were killed, although you did manage to save Queen Asalia.
Yeah. He didn't expect that too.
No, I thought both, and then I had to rewrite some stuff.
And that's exciting about D&D is that we can really change a huge aspect of the world, or not change it. Like, he planned for the king and queen that were getting married inside this world to die.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing when the king and queen dies in a world. But we changed it as players for only the king to die. Well, we didn't intend for only the king to die, but we only could save one, so we saved the queen, and he didn't expect that, but the roll of the dice, the way things worked out, and that changes everything. So you think the DM knows everything? No, they don't.
You have to be prepared to improvise huge parts of the story. What I sometimes do, if a player says, this is quite a good tip, if a player says something like, we go to the west when they're trying to go to the east, and we talk to this guy, and your DM brain is racing going, oh my god, I have to create a character, I have to create this whole area. What I do is I just start describing quite slowly the scene. You stand on the freshly dewed grass, which is crunching as the frost beneath your feet, and that gives you time to go, okay, there'll be two half-orcs here, and they're going to barter for this or that.
And it's all about preparing as much as you can.
Yeah.
One thing, I do watch a lot of DM tips, and because I like that aspect of it, you understand the game better if you understand who's telling the story. Is preparing as much as you can within the scope of what you can prepare for.
Yeah.
Such as having NPC character sheets there of just random characters that you can quickly just add into the story if you need be. Or just having certain little subplots that you have in your mind that I can bring that up or I can throw that out there.
Yeah. That's the next thing. Once you've created the world and you've got this map with spaces to improvise, and you have a fair idea of there's a desert up here, there's a beach there, castle, forest, maybe some other stuff. The next step is deciding on your story. And what I did, this is my own personal way of doing it, and you guys might have a different way, but I come up with the main plot points of this huge story. And I come up with the essential characters and creatures, devils and imps or anything like that are integral to the story. I know that that's the whole story of this part of this continent. That's what's going to happen. But then I also have a whole lot of side quests that I write that aren't really linked into that. Maybe they are a little bit. Maybe they just give you the players a little bit of information on how this main story goes. That way, if the players say, we want to go back to the harbour and we want to find a ship and we want to go to this island and we want to do this, you can go, okay, cool, and just have that main overarching story just in your mind. And when they go this way, maybe just throw in a character or two that hints them back there. So when they're done exploring and doing their thing, which you do want to let them do, you can still kind of know, and then we'll bring it back to the main story. The most useful thing that I can recommend, which I do in every single one of my games, both games, every single session, is in front of me, I just have a whole, 2 pages of the main plot points. Why they met this character, how they're tied into the story. That way, if they throw you a curveball and you have to make up an NPC, but it has to be part of the main story because I think in the last game, climbed onto the ship. They snuck onto the ship they weren't supposed to. That was not part of what I planned. Okay. But
to be fair, only one of us did. The rest of us were playing. we're in the inn. reenacting, what was it? Weekend at Bernie's with the dead body. We were doing the Weekend at Bernie's thing while the Detective Goliath was going around just trying to...
Snuck onto this ship, and I was thinking, okay, that's not a place I've planned for, but because I had all the plot points in front of me, I could go, okay, well, he'll do that, and that'll hint to this, or that'll tie in with that.
Yeah.
So that's probably my number one tip, is have in front of you a list of the major plot points, and then you can kind of improvise and bring people back to that, and that makes it very useful.
But don't force it.
No.
I think that's the key to keeping it fun and keeping the players under the illusion that they're in control of the situation. Even though we know that a lot of the time we're not, and we're just really on some train tracks. It just depends on how fast the train's going or how which direction it is. But you never want the players to feel like, oh, they have to do this.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
they have to go along this beat, because that's just the only plot that you have.
I mean, there is a quest that I've been not forcing, but mentioning a few times in your game that really isn't hugely important. But
have we followed it all?
you kind of have.
Yeah.
You ended up in the same place, but for a different reason.
Okay.
Starting a campaign. Think of the world with room to improvise. Get your overarching story and have the main plot points in front of you. The next important thing is something I'll talk to you about, which is getting your players, getting your people connected to their characters, and getting the characters connected to the world.
This is the first D&D campaign I've actually played in real life. I did play with one online, but it didn't really go anywhere. I needed a couple of sessions until just scheduling and everything didn't really work out. But when I was designing the character, I wanted to tell Ollie as much as I can about the character, where he's come from, and the uniqueness of it, and let him decide a lot about certain aspects of the character, such as I think my dad's name. I'll let you pick, and my mum's name, obviously, and about the lordship. So my character is a dwarf ranger who was adopted into a human family.
Which I thought was real cool.
I thought it was cool. So a lot of the attributes of a dwarf don't actually apply to my character because he wasn't raised underground. He didn't know dwarvish. He was raised in a human.
So essentially what we did was we took some other traits that would make sense to his upbringing, the stuff that wasn't inherent and genetic to a dwarf.
And tie that into the story. And my particular character, I made a point to say that he hasn't had a lot of experience around dwarves. He doesn't know how to act towards dwarves.
Even though he himself is one.
Yeah, we've just recently had a player be introduced into our team who is a dwarf.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting how I react to that, because I haven't really had the time to sit down and talk to them, but I just don't know.
So one of the things I'd recommend you do when you're creating your players for your game is let them have let them have complete creative control, but just say, leave this name blank, or leave the town you grew up in. Let me decide where in the map that is. That just makes it so much easier to tie them into the world. Yeah.
Yeah, and it also helps if your DM forgets your history once in a while, and you have to remind them.
11 players I'm in control of a week. 11 players.
But you always just mention I'd give Firehold. I know, because Firehold, my character doesn't know about Firehold.
It's true. And there's the Silver Wall.
Actually, I don't know. Does my character know about Firehold?
I think you would have heard of it because it's close to where you live and all that kind of stuff.
And plus, my adopted father would know when the initially plan was. So I would know that. Yeah. But I don't know why my father died.
Right.
And I know.
Yeah.
But my character doesn't. So it'll be interesting to see how that gets tied, and how does my character discover. So my character, the only aspects I know about it, my character knows about it, is before his adopted father died, he found out he had a brother and a sister.
Yes, and you've only just gotten some information about your sister.
About my sister, which you keep on making me go along all around the world to try and figure this out, and I can't. Every time I feel like I'm making progress, I'm just like, now you need to go there.
Yeah.
It's like a collection quest.
You guys don't have to do this in your game, but I quite enjoy the taking these points and spreading them over time. So it takes a while to gather all the information.
Yeah, and especially if you've got all these other characters in the game, because you don't want to make the game just about one character.
Exactly.
Or the most interesting character. You kind of want to be able to give each character their limelight. And in our game that we play, my character keeps a lot to himself. And so as a player and as a person, I've kept a lot to myself from the other the players in the game.
Yeah.
I don't think they know what I'm trying to do.
And
so that's been fun to play with.
Yeah. So something that I've done in all my games for the first session is I don't have the party start together. I have them. I plot it on my I plot it on my phone. I don't know what happened there. I plot it on my phone and I say, right, you've each got 25 minutes in my head. I don't say that out loud. And then I just start with their backstory, whatever they've created, wherever they are. I run them through using my storytelling elements to a point where I hand it over to them. So I say, as you found your father fall, you had gathered your things in a fit of despair and left your village in the dark of night to travel north to find the desert and hopefully your place in the world. As you wandered, your thoughts turned to this and that. This gives them a chance to, especially for the first session, understand their character is part of a world and understand that they are very connected to their character. That's how I get a good sense of roleplay. And then I'll say, okay, now we'll leave you there and we'll go to you. And eventually, sometimes I'll use visions or just random happenstance, the players meet and...
Or kidnapping. Which is something he does quite a lot in our games. You get kidnapped and slapped a lot.
No one's been kidnapped in my other games, but everyone's been kidnapped in my Sunday game.
So that's basically our brief views of the foundations of a particular game from both a player and a DM perspective. Over some of these videos down the line, we'll talk about the problems that we had after the game started, such as players leaving. It's a very tricky thing, but it's something that is part of the experience.
So we will talk about how to deal with those kind of scenarios and situations.
But just that's what this series is about. So hopefully you gained a little bit of insight of how we deal with these kind of things.
So just to recap for your first campaign, pre-gen campaign or your own, the world with room to improvise, your players where they start, and then bring them into the world with some solid role playing.
And with your players, just ask give your players a basic concept of what they can actually create. Let them go at it and create that, and kind of just mould what you can or can't do, really, and just be open to it.
And that's a great way to start a campaign for you and for your players. So, thanks for watching, guys. There'll be more of these videos coming at you.
And hopefully we'll catch you on another episode of The Dragon Tavern, because that's the name of the show.
The Dragon Tavern.
Thank you.
That was good.